Hi everyone and welcome. You're here today with Andy Valkyrie Divine, and today we're continuing our journey through the chakras, and today is actually day one of our crown chakra, and I have some beautiful flowers here to represent the 1,000-petaled lotus, which is the symbolic representation of the crown. And so we're going to be discussing the main properties or the main functionalities of what the crown chakra is all about. And I'll begin by saying that, if we're thinking of the top of the head and the top of, the entire column of the chakras, we would expect that we would get more and more and more into of the mental thought state, and also by extension into that realm of expansiveness and consciousness. And so I'll start by talking about the keywords, and one of the keywords is actually consciousness. It's having that mental awareness that goes beyond, so to speak. It's all about intelligence, but it's a divine intelligence that we're referring to. So at the top of the crown is where we're really starting to actually have a conduit to or a connection to divinity. And so the intelligence that comes through is really a divine kind of intelligence that that is entering. And it's also our connection to our God, to our goddess, to whatever form of spirituality or whatever form of religion that we might associate with this idea of divinity, whether it's God, whether it's Allah, whether it's the universe, whatever other name you might call it by. Typically we associate the crown chakra to be the one that resonates with this concept. It's also the chakra of spirit, in that again it's kind of the that divine link that links us, that gives us that life, sort of connects our soul, so to speak, from the divine all the way down into the physical reality that we embody here in the 3D world that we call our Mother Earth. And it's also about emptiness. And when we talk about this idea of consciousness, and by extension we're talking about collective consciousness, because we're all one when we reach the level of the crown chakra. This is where we really talk about emptiness, because the universe is one empty space, and when we reach that state of oneness, it's really how that feels, because everything is one and everything is none, and it's all sort of interrelated into this empty space that is the universe. The universe is as we are in our own atoms, and in the very structure of how we're built, 90% of it is actually empty space, and it's only the 10% or less that actually creates the nucleus and the electrons and all those things, the other little particles that are composed of that compose the atom. And so space is really an inherent part, or emptiness rather, is really an inherent part of the crown chakra, and like I said again, by extension, the universe, because we associate the connection between the crown chakra all the way up to the universe and the divine realms. And the name of the crown chakra in Sanskrit is Sahasrara, and it actually means, like I said, the thousand. It means thousandfold, and it comes from the flowers. So it's a lotus. I mean, this is not a lotus, but anyway, you can you can practice a little bit of visualization. And there's 1,000 petals all around, and that's really that blooming out of of our consciousness, and it's really the expansiveness that we're talking about. So we started with 4 petals at the base when we started out with the root chakra, and as we move up, we actually reach 1,000 petals, which is a lot richer and a lot more expansive, and again, embodying that idea of openness and space and opening up, and that sense of expansion. It's also when we think of the element of the crown, so when we were discussing the third eye, we talked about light being the element of the sixth chakra, and then when we move on to the seventh chakra, it's all about thought. And the third eye touches a little bit on that too, of course, because again, like I said, we're starting to be a lot in the mental realm, and you know, it's again, all the chakras are really interrelated. So there's a lot of interweaving that happens in between the centers, and so the crown is really the top part that talks about thought, about you know, this idea of consciousness, of collective consciousness, of oneness. So all of these are really the main concepts that we associate to the crown. The colors would be either purple or white. So again, depending on the color spectrum that you associate more with, the way that it works is you can either have light blue at the throat, dark blue or indigo at the third eye, and purple at the crown, or you may go with blue at the throat, you may go with purple at the third eye, and white at the crown. So again, it's up to you. Whatever your intuition tells you is right, and whatever colors you identify with more is really what I would suggest to go with. I really like white. It's you know, because I already have my purple in the third eye, so that's just what I associated with typically in my own choices. And if the third eye was all about the right to see, because we were talking about eyes and our vision and our visual concept of things, and how we see the world and how we perceive the world, the crown is associated with our right to know, and it's really about knowing the world through our thoughts. And we're really, you know, this is where we actually are starting to question this idea of thought, of intelligence, of information, you know, this, again, the idea of consciousness, and not just our own consciousness, but the collective consciousness that is all around, meaning that all our thoughts, we're all connected, we're all one, and so, you know, what I think and what I do actually affects other people that are connected to me, and so on and so forth, because we are one interconnected system working together as a whole. And so it's really, you know, the idea of seeking to understand our own consciousness through our patterns. So remember, the third eye is all about perceiving those patterns, and so it's with the crown that we get the input down into the third eye to understand what those patterns mean. So that's where the two are working closely together in order to make sense of our world and of our reality. And one other thing I'd like to mention is that, you know, the crown allows us to really explore our core belief systems and how we operate into the world. And you know, why do I say core belief systems? Is because our thoughts and beliefs are really what dictate what we do and how we operate and how we act into our world, right? So based on these belief systems that we have, this is how we accept truths or deny truths. This is how we do things or choose not to do things and make decisions based on these. You know, so all of these, this huge collection of information that really defines us and who we are as human beings comes from our thoughts, and again, like I said, from our belief systems. And our belief systems are huge in dictating the way that we navigate our world and how we perceive the world around us. And so I was writing here that it determines how our world and our reality is shaped, and also how we experience the world as a result of our beliefs. And so it's kind of like a mirror back. So we're projecting outwards our thoughts and our beliefs and the way that we are willing to operate into the world, but at the same time, by the same token, this is also how we perceive the world around us in that perception filter that our belief systems are putting into place for us. So that's one thing that I wanted to say here. Now, in the same line of thought, since we're talking about the element of thought, there's also this idea of order. And so, you know, as you can see, even just in the chakras, there's a very specific order of things following from bottom to top, right? And by the time we really reach the crown, this is where we're thinking about you know, building on the patterns that we've observed from the lower chakras all the way up to the top. And so remember that the third eye is the one that really perceives, that really is able to see and glean into the patterns that are all around. And it's through this connection with the third eye that we are making order of those patterns. So it's really, yes, the third eye can perceive the pattern, but it might not necessarily understand the pattern. You know, and that's the job of the crown, to give the third eye that input and work mentally, because we're still working at the mental level, to really understand the world around us through the patterns that we are able to perceive. I'm going to read you a little paragraph that might anchor that in a little better. So just give me a second, I'll get that for you guys. Okay. So, on order. Order is a pattern perceived from the view of a particular point of consciousness, which is in itself ordered in a unique way. The order that a honeybee perceives from the viewpoint of its own consciousness is vastly different from our own, and so is the information that each of us derives from the same set of circumstances. As we are patterned, so do we perceive. And so the idea is that we each have our own unique point of view, right? Those belief systems that I was referring to earlier, and you know, this point of view that we're referring to, we each see it differently. So you know, the bee might look at something, and I might look at something, and what I perceive with my own concept of how I order that set of circumstances might be very different than the way that the bee orders that set of circumstances in, well, in her own mind. I don't know if the bee has a mind, but you know, the idea is just that the perception is different. We could talk about, you know, two humans, it could be the same idea, same concept. And so you know, it's the pattern that is perceived from the point of view that you're looking at it from, or through the, you know, the glasses that you're looking through, so to speak, right? And we each have our own perception filters, and those really influence the way that we go through our lives. And these perception filters are put in place by our belief systems and our thoughts that reflect those belief systems. Let me see. Okay. Another point that I have here is that you know, when we're discussing patterns, when we're reaching the level of the crown chakra, we're really talking about a larger set of patterns. And you know, this larger set of patterns is kind of like meta patterns that we're discussing here, and it's really the structural base through which we are able to actually organize our thoughts and consciousness. And you know, our thought system is actually, you know, we're referring to, we have the conscious system and we have the subconscious system, and both actually run on a different set of patterns. And so you know, we have, it's kind of like an operating system, right? Our brain and again, our belief systems, what we think, what we know, and so what happens is we have the subconscious patterns, and those are the ones that are automatically learned on a subconscious level, but we also want to bring those out. And so the idea is to bring subconscious patterns out into the conscious awareness, because this chakra is all about awareness and about understanding, and the idea is to understand it, and then of course change it, because typically the subconscious patterns are really things that we do but we don't really realize we're doing them, and they're also the ones that are typically ingrained in us in the very early stages, you know, typically between 0 to 7 years of age, and those are the ones that we want to try to bring out throughout our lifetime to really understand and become aware of what they are, because as children we don't necessarily understand them, but we absorb everything. And later down the line, we might end up doing things or have belief systems that we don't necessarily agree with, that we've picked up from, from parents, from society, from all sorts of places. And so it's really the job of the crown to bring that into awareness and to give you that expansive state of mind to be able to understand those patterns at the broader level and see if you actually identify with them or not. So it's a bit of a reprogramming of the mind, so to speak. And again, when we're thinking about consciousness, and the way that we think is really the way that it's how well we organize. Again, we're talking about order, and how well we conceptualize our world and our reality. And what I mean by conceptualizing is that everything for us is, it's all about the way that we perceive things, the way that we categorize things, and the way that we conceptualize, so the way that we put concepts, we put things into categories, and we try to, again, make order so that we can have a pattern that makes sense to us, that we can actually interpret. And so this is where we're talking about the meta patterns that we're, at the level of the crown. We're really talking about a broad spectrum of things. It's like seeing the like the big picture. It's very expansive at this level, and it's also keeping in line with that expansiveness that we keep talking about as we go higher, or as the energy flows higher into the chakra column, right? And that's the whole idea. We want to try to get from the root, to the sacral, to the solar, to the heart, to the throat, to the third eye, to the crown, and we want to move upwards, because the whole idea of the energy is to move it from from a very material, grounded element all the way up into a very expansive one, so that we can reach that that divinity level, even though we are embodying our physical surroundings. And so this brings me to the idea of two things. One, which is called transcendence, and transcendence is literally what I was just saying, this idea of going sort of outward into the divine side of things, about looking at broad, on the broad scale, the meta patterns that we were discussing, and also this idea of leaving behind all the limitations of details and the small things, the physical world. All of these things are kind of left behind on the scale when we're looking at transcendence from the point of view of the crown. Now, if we're discussing the complete opposite of transcendence, that would be called immanescence, and that's the complete opposite. So that's where you're actually focusing in, and you're focusing in the now and in the here, which is very much in the physical world where we are bound by time and space. And both of these concepts apply constantly. We get input from the top that needs to go to the bottom to mediate the lower chakras, and we also do the same in the other way, where we want to transcend certain things so that we can see the bigger picture. And so it's, again, that flow of energy that I have been discussing throughout the whole series. And it's not that one is better than the other, it's that the flow has to be there both ways. And so depending on what your goal is and what you're looking to do, you just do not want to have any blocks blocking the flow, regardless of the direction of the energy. So whether you're sort of going from the root upwards or from the crown downwards, it doesn't matter, so long as the energy is flowing and there's no blockages to obstruct that. Let me see, do I have anything else? Okay, two little things and I'm done. So the crown is also about this idea of a state of oneness with everything, right? So when we reach the crown chakra, it's this idea of we're all interconnected and we're all one, and it's not just humans but the entire system as a whole. We're connected with nature, with animals, with the planet, with the solar system, the universe, the multiverse, and so on and so forth, right? So this idea is that there's no there's this sense of detachment, right? Like it's that the sense of detachment is completely gone, that we are not really individuals, but we are all one sort of big entity, and we work together. And this is where we're talking about the connection to divinity, in that the divinity is omnipresent, it's everywhere, and it can be gleaned into everything, into our own selves, in the way that we are born and we live our lives in nature, in the planets, the universe. It's all around, right? And anywhere you look, if you have a balanced crown chakra, you are able to see this divinity everywhere, because it's omnipresent. And so you perceive the world through those perception filters, and your perception allows you to really recognize the divine essence that is there, that is present. And it's not just bound by a physical dimension, because it goes beyond that. And again, it's this idea of expansion, right? You're really looking at the broad picture of things, so you're not looking at the small details. It's really just expansiveness at the highest level that you can think of. So that's all I had for today. I want to show you a couple mandalas that I think are absolutely gorgeous. And I'll leave you with that for today, so you can ponder a little bit more. This mandala is actually purple, so if you're more towards the purple side of the spectrum, I thought this would be a really nice one. Give me a second. So this is one. I hope you guys can see it well. Okay. And I also have a white one that I thought was very, very pretty. Let me just get that for you guys. I thought this was absolutely gorgeous, and you can really see the petals kind of like flowing outwards, and it almost looks like my flower that I chose. So here, let's see. I hope you guys can see that well. And again, I'll be posting these on my blog. The blog link is going to be right down below. I'll be posting it there, and you can save them. You can use them for meditation. And tomorrow we'll be discussing the imbalances that can happen in this chakra. So stay tuned. I know that these higher chakras are a little bit harder to really grasp, but the more you think about it, the more you're gonna get a better understanding. And as we go through the days, like day 1, day 2, day 3, I think that by day 3 it's really a lot easier to consolidate the information and have a much better understanding of everything. So stay tuned for tomorrow, guys. Thank you.